"Daddy, please help her." The words tore through Marcus Hale like glass, sharp and sudden, and he turned just in time to see his daughter's small hands clutching the edge of the hospital bed as if it were the only thing keeping their world from collapsing. The monitors hummed softly, a cruel contrast to the fear flooding the room. Lily's eyes were wide, wet with tears she was trying not to let fall. On the bed lay Mrs. Alvarez, the woman who had become the quiet miracle over the past 3 years. She was pale, breathing shallow, her chest rising with effort. To Lily, she wasn't just a neighbor. She was family. Marcus swallowed hard. He was a single father who had already learned how helpless love could make a man feel. He squeezed Lily's shoulder gently, forcing calm into his voice even as his heart raced. "She's going to be okay," he said, though he wasn't sure if he was convincing Lily or himself. Mrs. Alvarez had watched Lily after school when Marcus worked late shifts at the warehouse. She cooked meals when money ran thin, told stories from her childhood, and filled the empty spaces left by a life that had taken more than it had given. Now she was here because 2 men had tried to force her out of her apartment, threatening her over a property deal she didn't understand and didn't want. The stress had triggered a heart attack. Marcus stood in the hallway later, fists clenched, listening as the doctor explained the cost of treatment and the uncertainty ahead. Insurance would cover some, but not all. Mrs. Alvarez had no close family, no savings. Marcus felt the familiar weight settle on his chest, the same one he carried every day since his wife passed away. Responsibility without resources, love without power. The next morning, Marcus walked Lily to school, her hand tight in his. She barely spoke. When she finally did, her voice was small. "Daddy, those men, they hurt her, didn't they?" Marcus didn't lie. "They scared her," he said. "And sometimes fear can hurt people." Lily nodded, thinking, then said, "You won't let them do it again, right?" Marcus looked down at his daughter and felt something ignite inside him. "No," he said quietly. "I won't." The men weren't hard to find. Everyone in the neighborhood knew them. They drove expensive cars through streets where children played with cracked balls and patched shoes. They spoke loudly, laughed easily, and treated people like obstacles instead of lives. Marcus had avoided them before. He'd learned to keep his head down. But that day, he didn't. He approached them outside a cafe near the construction site where rumors said a luxury development would rise. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. He told them to leave Mrs. Alvarez alone, told them she was sick, told them they'd already done enough damage. They laughed. One of them shoved Marcus, hard enough to make him stumble. Another grabbed his jacket, sneering. Words were exchanged, anger flared, and in seconds, the situation spiraled. Marcus wasn't a fighter by nature, but years of lifting crates and pushing through exhaustion had built strength he rarely thought about. More than that, fear for someone else gave him clarity. When it was over, the cafe windows were cracked, chairs overturned, and both men were on the ground, groaning and stunned. Marcus stood there shaking, not from victory, but from the realization of what he'd done. People stared. Someone called the police. Marcus didn't run. He spent the night in a holding cell, replaying Lily's face in his mind, wondering if he'd just ruined the only thing that mattered. The charges were minor, self-defense considered, but the risk was real. He was released the next day, exhausted, ashamed, and unsure of what would come next. What came next was unexpected. 2 days later, as Marcus was unloading boxes at the warehouse, a sleek black car pulled into the gravel lot. The workers paused, curious. A man in an immaculate suit stepped out, followed by another who carried a tablet and wore an expression of practiced professionalism. They asked for Marcus Hale. Marcus wiped his hands on his jeans, heart sinking. He thought of Lily, of courtrooms and consequences. "That's me," he said. The man smiled, not unkindly. "My name is Daniel Cross," he said. "I'm the CEO of Cross Developments." The name hit Marcus like a wave. Cross Developments owned half the city's skyline. The rumors, the construction, the pressure on Mrs. Alvarez, it all connected. I'd like to speak with you, Cross said. Privately. They talked in the car. Cross listened as Marcus explained everything, from Mrs. Alvarez's kindness to Lily's fear, from the confrontation to the hospital bills. Marcus didn't try to justify himself. He simply told the truth. When he finished, Cross was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. Those men you fought, he said, were subcontractors. They acted without authorization. What they did was wrong. Marcus stared at him. Wrong doesn't fix what they did. No, Cross agreed. But I can. Cross explained that he'd seen the security footage. Not just of the fight, but of the days before, of the harassment. He'd come not to threaten Marcus, but to thank him. Too many people look away, he said. You didn't. Within days, the charges against Marcus were dropped. Mrs. Alvarez's medical bills were quietly covered. Her apartment was secured, her lease extended for life. Cross Developments issued a public statement about ethical practices and terminated the subcontractors involved. But Cross didn't stop there. He offered Marcus a job. Not charity, but opportunity. A position in logistics, training provided, a salary that meant Marcus wouldn't have to choose between groceries and medicine ever again. Marcus hesitated. Pride warred with gratitude. Why? He asked. Cross looked at him steadily. Because my company can build buildings, he said. But men like you build people. And we need more of that. Life didn't change overnight. Mrs. Alvarez's recovery was slow. Marcus still packed lunches and helped with homework, still woke up worried about bills out of habit. But slowly, the edges softened. One evening, weeks later, Lily sat beside Mrs. Alvarez's bed at home, reading her a story. She looked up at Marcus and smiled, a real smile, the kind he hadn't seen in too long. Daddy, she said, you helped her. Marcus knelt, pulling her into a hug. We all did, he said. The challenges hadn't disappeared. Healing took time. Trust took time. But something stronger than fear had taken root. And Marcus learned that standing up, even when your knees shake, can change more than you ever imagined.